Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is the Divine's Mother, and this week we are going to be talking about sayings that are complete bullshit. And we're going to start with this one. Okay, this one just makes no sense to me, and it really just blows my mind that it's been around for so long. And it's a saying we've all heard before, and it's this: children should be seen and not heard. Whenever I hear this saying, I'm just like, oh my gosh, no wonder we have such a society that's scared of public speaking, that's scared of using their voice, that's scared of speaking their truth, that's scared of um even saying anything. Like I'm scared to speak. Like I don't want to speak or even be myself because I'm just supposed to be quiet. And another way we reinforce this as parents and as adults and as people in our children is by saying, when our children are sitting there being really still and quiet, oh, you're such a good boy. You're just sitting there so still and so quiet. At what way did we decide you're a good person? You're a good person. You have a good soul if you're sitting there and being quiet. Like that is literally teaching children to be like basically just a robot, just to sit in. Just to sit in. You're just a sit in. If you're just sitting there being quiet, not having a say in anything, not using your voice, not expressing yourself, all of these things. And then we wonder again why society is like, I'm so scared to sing, or I'm so scared to public speak, or I'm so scared to any of this because we've been told since we were little, well, you should be seen and not heard. Can we change that around to children should be seen and heard, actually heard, really listen to them and honor the things that they're saying? Because children are just, oh my gosh, they're such good teachers. Another thing that I've noticed myself doing, another little saying that we've all heard, time is money. Let's go. Hurry up. Hurry up. Come on. Come on, Orion. Let's go. Now, when I do this, I'm hurrying my child through his life, and I'm teaching him to hurry through his life. The other day, I was walking to the car and I was like, come on, Orion, let's go. I myself am doing this. I'm not perfect. I'm just telling you guys the things that I've noticed in myself that I do. And I'm like, I've had to really stop and get conscious of myself. Why am I doing this? What is my actual hurry? Unless I'm meeting someone or I'm on my way to work or I'm actually have a time that I need to be somewhere, then there's really no reason for me to hurry myself or my child through his day. The other day I was walking in my car and Orion had stopped and I'm like, come on, come on. And I looked over and he's looking at a little grasshopper and he's like, Mom, look. And I walked over there and I was like, I got down, I was looking at the grasshopper, and I wasn't just looking at for Orion. I was actually looking, like I really did. I looked at the grasshopper and I was like, oh my gosh, when is the last time you've looked at a grasshopper? They are a trip. They are a trip. I got down really low and I looked at the grasshopper and I was wowed, and I had a moment of wonder. It was an actual moment of wonder at this grasshopper, like the way they jump, the way their legs are, the way they're shaped, like their armor stuff. Like it looks like they look like they're aliens. And I would have totally missed that moment if I hadn't had the presence to just stop and be with him and see through his eyes what he was seeing. And he does this all the time. And I'm constantly like, come on, let's go. He'll be sitting there playing in the dirt and he'll be like feeling the dirt. And I'm like, come on, let's go, Ryan. Imagine that you had gone somewhere really, really cool, like Disneyland or Harry Potter Land or a museum or something like that. And you've got someone that's like, come on, let's go. Hurry, come on, let's go. Stop looking at that thing. You'd be like, what are you? This is amazing. I'm missing out on this whole experience because your ass is hurrying me through it. Sorry for my language. I'm actually not sorry for my language. Because you're hurrying me through this thing. Now, why do we do this? And how much wonder are we missing out on when did we lose our wonder and our exploration and our joy for life because we're just in such a hurry to get through it? And where are we going? To go sit on our phone, to go watch Netflix? Like, where are we in such a hurry to get? And I think that part of the reason so many of us are running around like we're in a hurry is because we were taught this when we were young. Like, you gotta hurry, come on, time is money, let's go. Like, why do we say that? Why do we say that? It's not. It's not money. Like, it's just, and in fact, we're missing out on so much of life from being in a hurry. So the next time that your child is doing something and they're dawdling or they're whatever, like maybe just take a minute and be like, oh, maybe my child is onto something and I actually need to slow down and just take a moment with my surroundings. I think it would really invite us all into a lot more presence and a lot more wonder in our own lives if we stopped rushing through it and we stopped teaching our children to rush through it and we allow them to just really enjoy what's around them and really be with what's around them and really pay attention to how cool life is. Because for our children, sometimes they are seeing things for the first time. Like you might be in a museum and you're just rushing them through that experience. Just because you've seen a rose a million times doesn't mean that rose or that grasshopper isn't actually incredible to your child. It'd be like seeing like the pyramids, or like, I don't know, like something that would be really cool to you, like a spaceship or something, that you are seeing for the first time. It's so incredible for them to see it for the first time, and you're rushing them through that experience. So it's really just, and I understand sometimes you have places to be, sometimes you have things to do. I myself, again, it's a lesson for me. When I say my child is my teacher, I'm not kidding you guys. I'm basically going to get on here and tell you guys the things my child teaches me every day. And that is not to rush through life and not to rush him through life. And so it's constantly me being present with, am I actually needing to go somewhere in a hurry right now? Or am I just doing this because I think it's what I've always done. I'm in a hypnotic rhythm of hurrying around. Am I teaching him to be in a hypnotic rhythm of hurrying around? Okay. Another saying that I absolutely just cannot understand at all, I can't even fathom it, is you can't be friends with your children. It's my deepest desire. It's my soul's deepest desire to be friends with my son. That when he gets old and he leaves my house and he goes off on his own journey and his own adventure, that he wants to call me, that he wants to come see me, that he wants me to come see him, and that it's always a joy for us to spend time together. And so in that, there's so many, I would be treating my child much different. And how differently would you treat your child if it was your friend as opposed to your child? So the other day we all went out to lunch, me and my man and Orion, and we were all waiting on a patio. There's all these people eating on this patio. We were up at this lodge, and Orion starts screaming. He was screaming. He was having some big emotions. He's like, no way, no way, no way. And he's like screaming. And I was just like, okay, now all of these people are looking at me like, are you going to control your child? Like, what are you doing? Like, and I'm feeling all this pressure, whether they were thinking it or not. I'm feeling like everyone around me is like this. So when I'm feeling this way, then my emotions start to get big and I'm like, oh, everyone's judging me. I look like a bad mom right now. I don't know, da, da, da. And it's like all these feelings. And in that moment, I had to get really present. I got really, really present. And I was like, okay, what is happening in this moment with Orion? It's like a moment of connection as opposed to just reacting. It's a moment of connection. And I'm like, okay, what is this? What's going on here with this baby? Why is he so upset? First of all, we're in a new place. Okay. There's a lot of people around that he doesn't know. There's a lot of energy around that he doesn't know. He couldn't be overstimulated. Even though he's hungry and likes going and having adventures, his initial reaction as he's first getting used to a place can be he's overstimulated. Okay, so that's something that's going on with him. The other thing is, right before that, we had gone to someone's house and they gave him a sucker, which is sugar. They are essentially giving my child a drug. Now, I give my child sugar too, okay? It's a whole thing. I'm not giving them a lot of sugar, but when I do give him sugar, I've got to be really mindful because every single time he has big emotions, he has a ton of energy, he's running around, he's throwing things. It's almost like he can't even control himself. And it's because his nervous system is having a hard time with the sugar. It's like, I liken it to giving your friend like 4 or 5 shots and then being like, don't act drunk. Why are you acting drunk? Like, what the heck? Can't you just act normal? When they're taking a substance to not act normal. How often do we do this with our children? Here's all this sugar. here's some pop, here's some candy, here's some syrup with your pancakes in the morning. Even ketchup has sugar in it. So if we're not mindful of what we're feeding our child and we're just giving them a drug essentially, and then we're like, oh, you better act normal though in public. Like, how is that? You would never in your life, like if your friend was like really drunk, you'd probably be like, hey, come here, friend, let's go. You wouldn't be like, oh my God, quit being a mess. Like everyone's staring at you when you were the one giving them the drink. It's like, it makes no sense. Okay. So that was the other thing that happened. Now, in that moment of like, what does my child need? I got down on his level as opposed to being above him because he's already worked up. He's already having big emotions. He's already not in a good place. Now, I want you to think about when you're not in a good place already. What really helps you? Is it someone even talking to you or telling you what to do or being like, stop doing that? Or if you cry, there's another one. If you keep crying, I'm going to give you a reason to cry. Like, why do we say that to our children? And then expect them to be able to handle, and then we not even expect them, but we wonder why as adults we aren't able to handle our emotions, and we turn to things like drugs and alcohol or antidepressants or all of these things because we weren't ever taught to feel an emotion fully. We were taught that it was either bad or embarrassing, or even we could get punished. If you cry, I'm going to give you a reason to cry. Like, that's not a kind thing to say to someone that's already having a hard time. Imagine your friends going through a hard time and you're like, if you keep crying, I'm going to give you another reason to cry. Like, how is that kindness at all or helping the situation at all? But it's these things that we've been told. And so it's almost like it's something that we say because our parents told it to us, instead of being really conscious ourselves of what am I speaking into the field and what is actually needed right now? And what's a healthy way for my child to handle emotions? And how can I hold space for that and help it be better? So I got down on his level. I'm not yelling at him. I say, all right, let's go for a little walk. I take his hand and I gently lead him over to the side. And then I got down and I sat with him at eye level and I said, do you want to take some deep breaths? And he said, no way. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take some deep breaths. So I do this thing that I love to do. I think I learned it on Instagram or TikTok or something, where you smell the flower and you blow out the candle and you take deep breaths. And I sat there and I smelled the flower and I blew out the candle, not for him, but for me. Because remember, I'm going through something as well right now. All these people are staring at me. My ego is very just like, I'm a good mom, okay? Like, he's going through emotions. Like, don't you guys. So I'm taking the deep breaths is helping me actually to calm down and recenter myself so that I don't have big emotions back at him or anyone else in the restaurant. So what I'm teaching him when I do this is I'm showing him, first of all, I'm calm. You're not going to receive more riling up from me, and you're not going to receive any anger at me. And it's okay for you to feel how you're feeling. And I'm just here. I'm going to be really quiet and I'm just going to be doing my deep breaths. Now, when I'm also teaching him that when he has big emotions, it's okay to breathe through it. Okay. I wish I had been taught this more, because I think if I was taught more this when I was young, of taking deep breaths as opposed to stop crying or you're going to go to your room or it's like, I think I would have been able to handle emotions a little bit better. So there's two things happening here. I'm connecting with my child. It's a moment of connection. It's not a moment of correction, because it doesn't need to be. He's just feeling big emotions. I understand why it's happening. I understand what's going on. He's having a hard time and I get that. And he's my friend. I want to treat him like a friend. I want to respect him and what he's experiencing right now. And so it's a moment of connection. I'm connecting with him. And what he really needs is, what he actually ended up needing was for me to hug him. After he was really upset, he came in and he just laid on me and he let me hug him, and I just held him. And I rocked him back and forth. And it was really sweet. And it was a moment of connection that could have been lost if I had let my ego of what everyone else was thinking about me drive me to do something that I actually would have regretted after, which was getting mad at my child or yelling at him or saying, we're going to leave the restaurant, or not letting him fully feel the emotion and know that the emotion is okay to feel and a safe thing to feel, and giving him that little safe place to feel the emotion just kind of off to the side. Now, how often is there a chance for connection that we actually end up doing correction, or we actually end up, like ourselves not handling it well? And when I say, it's like, I keep on saying, like, he's my greatest teacher, because that whole moment wasn't even about him. It was about me becoming more aware and conscious, and also taking a deep breath and really taking a step back from the whole thing and being like, what's actually happening here? And what is the end result I want? And it was a moment for me to be really present with myself of, okay, how can I act with more love here? And it was such a magic moment. Like, it was such a powerful experience. And it's something I'm constantly doing. It's not like I just did this one time and I'm perfect, but I was like, I really liked the way that went. I felt like Orion and my relationship was stronger after that, as opposed to not like him being hurt and not being able to feel the emotion, and there being some trauma caused in that situation. I know we're not always perfect. And so another thing that I really like to say and do is, another thing I really like to practice is apologizing to my child. I'm really sorry I did that. I am not always right. I am not always perfect. And just really letting him know that if I do mess up, or if I do have a big emotion, or I do get angry, like, I'll go to him and be like, I didn't handle that very well, huh? And I'm really sorry. I'm going to try to do better, and actually do try to do better. And apologies are so powerful. I don't know that my parents apologized to me that often when I was young. And um I feel like a lot of us as parents, like, it's not our initial thing. It's like, oh, we just think this is how it is, or we can just act anyway. And it's really not. Like, if you had done something mean to a friend, or you'd overreacted, or you do something, you probably apologize to them if you were truly valuing the relationship, and be like, I'm really sorry that I did that, and genuinely be sorry, and try to not do that again. So none of us are perfect, but there's always like a loving, we can always invite more love in with just treating our children with respect and seeing them here, as opposed to like, you're below me and I'm going to treat you like you're below me because you're smaller than me. Just because they're smaller does not mean they're not infinitely more wise in things that truly matter than we are. And so I really just respect my child. I don't ever think that I'm like the say all, be all, do all, and that he needs to just like listen to me, because like I said, he's here teaching me. He's here teaching me. And so these are just some things mostly that I'm learning from him. Another thing that, let's see, what else wanted to come through for this? Another thing that I see parents doing that happened the other day is, and it made me really sad, is like being really aware of what we're actually saying. Because our kids can hear us, and they're brilliant. Whether you think they understand the words you're saying, they can read body language. They're masters at reading a situation and reading your energy, reading your thing, because that's how they survive. They're like watching you to be like, if I do this, does it get me more love? Or if I do this, does it not? Or da 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 da. And like, they're really watching you. So they're really actually paying more attention to you than most people are. And this really makes me sad, because we say things like they're not there, or that they don't understand, like they don't understand, or that they don't even matter. And the other day I was sitting with some, like a lady, and she had her 5 kids with her, and her children were there. All of her children were there. And she's like, oh, we should have just stopped at 3. And she was kidding. But I could feel the 2 other kids there that were like, I could just feel their energy, and like, it just like, it was like my stomach dropped, and I could feel how they were like, this is the person that loves me the most and that I love the most. And they just said that they wished that they hadn't had me. Do you know how traumatizing that might be for a child? Like, I was just feeling like, even though they're joking, a child doesn't really know, like, they can understand that you're joking, but it's not a funny joke, first of all. And it's really mean to say. Like, it's like if you were going on a road trip with your friends and you're like, oh, I wish we hadn't brought Laura. like that would this would be so much better if we just didn't bring Laura, and Laura's like sitting back there. Do you think Laura's ever going to want to go on a vacation with you? Or how do you think Laura's going to feel? Like, it's like, why do we talk this way to our children or around our children to people, even if it's not to them, but we talk to other people about our children like they're not there. They totally understand everything you're saying. Even things like, oh, it was such a hard day with the kids today, or I had such a hard time with my child today, or this child was being really naughty today, or this was this. It's like, our children can hear us. And how do you think they feel when, oh, I guess that I'm giving my mom a really hard time because I was playing and having fun, or because I was this, and I guess I'm just a really hard person to be around, and even my mom doesn't want to be around me, and even I make life hard for my mom. Like, what? Ouch. Ouch. That like hurts my heart thinking about it. Like this poor little sweet baby hearing these things, and it's not kind. And so just really, again, children are such amazing teachers of presence, because it takes so much presence for us to be aware of what we are imprinting on a child that is that young, that is just learning about life and learning about everything and learning about themselves from us. And so what are we imprinting in our child that we're just mindlessly saying as a joke, that it could actually be taken very seriously and be very hurtful and very harmful, very harmful. So, and harming the relationship too. Like we're harming the relationship when we say these things around our kids. It's being really like mindful. And I love saying things to Orion. Like I can feel his energy. Like when he's going to bed at night, I'll be like, you're so amazing. You're such an incredible artist. You're such an incredible dancer. You're so good at everything that you try. You're so imaginative. Like, I love how loving you are. I love how these things you are. And just speaking life into our children, speaking loving things into our children, speaking, joy into our children, speaking confidence into our children. We're watering their plant. Now, when you think of the 5 love languages, children actually, I believe, need all 5 love languages. They need all 5 things, and especially the ones that need ones even more. If your child's love language is a word of affirmation, and you're saying things like, oh my gosh, he's just the worst, he's been the worst today, he's just he's such a little asshole, or he's such a little shithead, or da da da, like that's very hurtful. That's very harmful to a child whose love language is words of affirmation. And so maybe even learning your child's love language or what they respond to, but even all the love languages, like children need love. And so many people say, oh, they just want attention. She's crying because she just wants attention. If she's crying because she wants attention, then she probably desperately needs some love. It needs attention. We do need attention. What's wrong with needing attention? Why have we made that so bad? It's a human need. Love is a human need. And so to deny someone that and being like, oh, they just want this, like, and they're doing something like a cry for help, like literally crying for help. It's like, why do we do that to our children? They just need attention. Like, why are we so opposed to like giving them attention? And if they're crying to get it, and you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to give them attention when they cry because that's a bad way. Like, how many other things that they've done to get attention that we're not seeing and we're not honoring and we're not valuing, and they're just not getting any attention, or they're not getting what their soul's needing. I don't believe children are manipulative in like, oh, I'm going to do this so I can get this. Like, I think they genuinely, for the most part, if they're crying for attention, they probably need attention. So just like, if your friend was crying and having a hard time, like someone you really cared about, a friend you really cared about is going through something hard, I don't think that you'd be like, ugh, you just want attention. That friendship is not going to be a good friendship if that's how you're showing up to it. And so really being present with how you're showing up with your child. Are you showing up with your child as a friend, as someone that you would want to be a friend with, and not showing up to them as like just being mean, being unkind, being on a power trip, like all these things. So it's really being mindful. mindful ourselves, and about who we're being around our children and what they're seeing, and just really being conscious with ourselves. And it teaches me so much when I do this with my child, and I just really look at him and I'm like, what do you actually need? Because it is teaching me to go to anyone in my life, and someone's yelling at me or someone's having a tantrum. If I can look at my child and see my child and be like, okay, there's something else happening here. You're having some really big emotions. Instead of like coming back at him, instead of coming back at this other person, I can be like, let's see the other person and be like, okay, what do you actually need right now? And what's actually happening underneath all this like anger and rage? There's probably something deeper, and there's a way to handle it. And it helps me again. I need to do the candle and the flower with an actual adult. Maybe that's the lesson, but it helps me to be more calm and more mindful of how I'm reacting when people are having big emotions around me. When I can work with my little boy and his big emotions and work with those in a loving way, it helps me in every relationship in my life. And in that way, I say he's like my greatest teacher. So this is such a wild ride. Like motherhood, I don't want you guys to think that I'm like coming on here and being preachy. These are things that I've had to really sit with myself and be like, is the way things have been done the best way to do it still? And how were things done that I feel like I could have been really more nourished in certain ways, or really more this, that I have the chance to almost like reparent myself and give this child and really honor the divinity that's within him. There's a big difference between a dictatorship and honoring the divinity in something to help it grow. There's like very different energies there. And can you imagine if someone just really loved and nourished the divinity within you, nourished your infiniteness? The other thing I hear like parents say is like, he's not very good at math, but he's really good at sports. She's so pretty, but she's not very this. I mean, I've never heard a parent say that, but like, like just things that we may mindlessly say, like, oh, he's my child that's good at sports. Now, what that may seem like a kind thing to say, and it's okay to be like, oh, he's so good at sports and he's got so many talents. There's so many things he's good at. When we do like, oh, he's my sports child, we're literally putting our children in a box. Children, they're the divine. We're all the divine, and we put ourselves in these boxes. We like to put things in boxes, I've noticed. We're like, my wife has a box and my mom has a box that this is what she's like, and this is the box that I'm gonna put this in, and this is the box I'm gonna put this in, because we're all basically just deciding the characters in our game, and it makes us very unsafe when we feel like we don't know how a person's going to react or who a person is, and so we like to put them into a box so that we feel safe with that person. It's such an interesting thing that humans do. But when we do that and we speak it to a child, we're putting them in in a box that may not be their highest box. I mean, their highest divinity. Like if you think of a child as the divine and limitless and infinitely like love and all the things, and they have like infinite potential, if you continue to feed the infinite potential instead of being like, oh, you're a sports person or you're an arts person or you're this person, then I would love to see who that person grew up to be when they feel like they're so limitless and they weren't put in any boxes. So just some things to think about for yourself at the end of this. If any of this triggered you, just really sitting with yourself. Were you ever told that children should be seen and not heard? Were you ever put in a box? Did you ever hear a parent of yours or a caretaker of yours say something about you that really hurt your feelings? that you may not have admitted that it hurts your feelings, but may have been much more traumatic than it actually you realize. I remember my mom, I love my mom, she's amazing, but she'd always just be like, I wanted 10 boys. And she told me when she had me that she's like, I was just like, I've got to do this again. And right off the bat, it made me be like, oh, I guess I'm not what my mom wanted. And that was like not a good feeling. I'll just be honest, it wasn't a good feeling. And I know my mom didn't mean to hurt me. I know she said it very unintentionally, but I don't think she was mindful of how that would make me feel, knowing like obviously I'm a girl and I wasn't what she wanted. Like the person that I needed to love me the most way back when didn't I wasn't what she was wanting. And so it's just an interesting thing and just something to be really mindful and just asking yourself, has this ever happened to you? Did someone ever say anything? And then from that going forward, how can we be a little more mindful with the things we say about our children while they're around, even joking, especially joking, because joking can be really hurtful because it's not like whether you're whatever tone you're saying it to, that child is still hearing that message. Okay. And so it's being really mindful of the words we speak around our children and to our children and the things we call our children, because those things hold power and they are so young. They're building their identity now. And so they're like, oh, I guess I'm a brat. I guess I'm a little shit. I guess I'm just the worst, or I guess I'm just so naughty. I guess I'm this. And they're pulling they're like holding on to it like a little sponge of like they're literally looking to the world to tell them who they are right now. And so it's like as they're building this, it's really powerful to speak kindness to them, to speak words and not in a way of putting them in a box, but like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing at everything and sports. Like, how are you so good at all the things? Like that's the kind of vibe. Like, can you imagine someone telling you that when you were little? Like, how are you so good at everything that you try? Like, how are you so and even if you're not good right away, like I love how hard you work at these things, like, or even if you weren't good at this thing right away, like you can always work at it and get better. Like everything that you want to be, you can be and you can develop. Like this is like it's like a totally change in energy of, if you were watering a plant, you'd want to make sure it was like, you're not putting like gasoline or something. I don't know what that would do to a plant, but like just being really mindful of the nourishment that you're giving your children. So this whole thing is really about being mindful and not just doing things because that's the way they've been done, and not just saying things because that's what's been said, and being like, okay, can this stop here and be a different way going forward from me and my line and my children? What didn't work there, and how can I like go forward and do it differently? All right, this is the Divine's Mother. The Divine's Mother. The Divine's Mother. Okay. I love you all. Like and subscribe. I do these every week and I have a lot more content to post, and I'm really loving this series so far. I hope you like it too.